there is definitely an indicator that there is a shakeup in the luxury world about to happen. So let's get into it.
One. Two.
Hey all stars, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to a very interesting video. This video was originally just going to focus on Dior and this whole scandal floating around Dior with creating very bad very bad working environment and overpricing in comparison to what it costs to actually make leather goods. But I figured, you know what? It's not only Dior and Armani and Chanel and Saint Laurent, a few other brands that are having a little bit of, scandal around them. So I figured, you know what? Let's not just make this about Dior. Let's talk about everybody. A little bit of, well, not everybody, but a few of our favorite brands. Also, I did pose the question in the last outfit of the day video if you guys wanted me to chit chat a little bit more about Chanel, and it was a resounding yes. So we're definitely going to talk about Chanel today, even though Chanel is one of my favorite brands, but we will have a conversation. We will definitely have a conversation about that. But in addition to the negative, I didn't want to be that negative Nancy that only focuses on the negative stuff going on in the world of luxury. But I also wanted to shout out some of the positives, Pharrell and his Louis Vuitton show, and just seeing more Black creative directors, even though we haven't really seen that many Black female creative directors, but we'll leave that for another discussion. But anywho, I wanted to kind of shed a little bit of light on the positive as well. So yeah, this is going to be a fun video. So if you're new here, what's up? I'm Monica. And we do fashion, we do luxury, we do high-low fashion, we do all the things here. So if you like my vibe, just go ahead and subscribe. I can guarantee you it'll be a good video. But in addition to fashion, we also do a little bit, I also create content around vlogs, so travel, family, all the things. So basically, like I said, if you like my vibe, just go ahead and subscribe. Let's get into this video because there is definitely an indicator that there is a shakeup in the luxury world about to happen. So let's get into it. Okay, I feel like I got to get really comfortable for this one because I feel like we're going to be here for a minute. But first and foremost, let's get into Dior. All right. So I have to say, when I heard or when I saw this article, actually a girlfriend of mine sent a YouTube video by another creator who was talking about this big expose. I think the Business of Fashion, first of all, dropped this story. I might be wrong on that. But about this whole thing, which is actually a really big deal right now in Italy, about Dior being investigated for horrible a horrible working environment, basically, and subjecting their staff, or basically a third-party company that they source, and the environment in which these people are working was horrendous. There were pictures that were included. Apparently the safety measures on the machines were taken out to ensure that they can work around the clock. There were indicators that with the electricity usage that they were literally working around the clock, and just kind of showing this very grotesque environment in which people had to work in. Honestly, if it was Chanel, I probably wouldn't have been so surprised, if I'm being honest, just because, in my opinion, the way production is, it feels like it's becoming mass produced. But Dior is probably one of those houses that I personally have always felt that they've done an excellent job of keeping up standards, at least on the appearance side. And once upon a time when I did work luxury retail, I shared when the Dior store at the time, they were renovating, so we shared a stock room, and you get to observe their practices and what they do, and it always felt like they were so on it, right? And when you talk to Dior employees, and I've had really close friends who worked for Dior and who still work for Dior, it just felt like they were above all of that. They kept to their standards, and they were very strict about it. So to see this article and to hear about this, and they literally have like a year to make it right, I was disappointed. I was very disappointed. I do have a lot of Dior pieces. I am a fan. I was disappointed about the work situation. Was I disappointed that they were using a third party and not those beautiful hands we see in all the Dior ads and on YouTube that we're constantly bombarded with? No, because if you've worked luxury retail, you already know that a lot of these brands outsource. And I feel like we'll get into that more so. But I was definitely surprised and shocked to see that kind of working situation. Would things have changed from back then to now? There's a possibility. This was also almost 10 years ago for me. So there is definitely the possibility of that. But if you haven't seen the article, I will definitely link it in the description box. And to say I was disappointed, absolutely. Absolutely. I did not expect that from the House of Dior at all. In terms of the cost and the production of making these goods, now that's a different story. I feel like I know I've said this here on the channel before. I know I've mentioned this. Most luxury retail brands create, or at least have at least a 300% markup. That is why, luxury ready-to-wear can go down so low. So I wasn't, well, okay. Let me be honest. I was still surprised when they said that in the article that the bags they create are about $57, so a little less than $60, but yet they're selling them for $5,000. That part was definitely a little alarming. I know there's a huge markup. However, I'm like, I feel like so much has changed from when I left luxury retail, which was about 8 years ago. So I guess a lot has changed, and especially now with this influx of social media and always that need to keep up and the demand for luxury goods becoming astronomically high. I guess sometimes when you want to meet the demand, you forgo integrity. And I feel like I've talked about this in lives where now when we keep on seeing brands just jacking up prices within the same season, it's more of an indicator that brands are more focused on profit, which obviously it's a capitalistic world and, these brands are in for profit, but there always used to be integrity attached to the profit. And now more than ever, we're just seeing a massive collapse in that. So to see that huge of a price difference, it was definitely disappointing. I, in my perspective, mind you, bags were a lot less back then. I was made to believe that it costs a couple of hundreds of dollars to create a lot of these bags. But to see that it's under 100 now and the prices are higher, that definitely had me scratching my head. I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, definitely had me feeling a little like, okay. And then another thing too, I think one of the things that we tend to forget, and this is something that I've mentioned many times as well, is that a lot of the pieces on the products we buy, the luxury products that say made in Italy and made in France and all of that, a lot of the pieces are actually made in China or Turkey. And I've known this for many years. As long as the finished product is assembled in Italy, Paris, or any of these other countries that are known for their craftsmanship, you legally can say that it was made in that country. And a lot of brands have done this to cut costs, to gain or to have more profits, and to keep their shareholders happy. So that part I wasn't necessarily surprised about. And I know, it's a shocker for a lot of people or a lot of consumers. But, I think it's only in the last year and a half that I really started touching this back part of luxury. I've kind of thrown it in here and there, but now I think it's just there's such a huge shakeup, and this curtain is definitely being lifted, and everyone gets to see it. And I think we're now normalizing this because brands have I think a lot of brands have just taken it too far, and I think that's what it is, and I think that's why more and more brands are going to be exposed. In addition to Dior, Armani is also being investigated for the same allegations. So am I shocked that now that this veil is being lifted? Not necessarily. I think a lot of brands just took it a little too far with the price gouging, with the quality not matching the price points. And not all brands are dabbing into this, but it's just, it's really, really becoming astronomical. It's becoming alarming. It's becoming, I don't know what's going on. I know a lot of people have this argument that, they're just trying to weed out certain people and certain races from shopping. And in fairness, I think there is a level of that, but ultimately, these brands are for profit. They want to make money. They want to make money. Am I saying that they don't necessarily want people of color always, representing their brands? There's a yes and a no, because in marketing and advertising, it's still being seen. So, but at the same time, that's a tricky, I have to say that's a tricky one. A lot of times when I create content like this, especially on Instagram, there's always one or two comments that say they just don't want us shopping. That can be true, but at the same time, I really don't think a lot of that is the situation. I think what it really boils down to is the opportunity to increase profit more than anything. And then number two, yes, to weed out who they want representing their brand. That's always going to be the case with a lot of these houses. But ultimately, I definitely think the profit is king. And yeah, when we go into Chanel, I'll talk more about that. But as I mentioned before, I did not expect this from Chanel. Sorry, I did not expect this from Dior. Chanel, that's a different case. I definitely, if it was Chanel, I would have been like, tell me more. Dior, I was shocked. Speaking of Chanel, let's get into Chanel, because I feel like a lot of you guys have been waiting for me to just kind of like dab into Chanel and chit chat a little bit about that and just my feelings on Chanel. I do have a post on Instagram that's going to be going live as well in July. I think this will be going live in July as well, just kind of highlighting a little bit about Chanel and dropping a little bit of tea as well. But there's so much. Like, Chanel is just one of those brands that I feel like when Chanel and Hermes, when you think of luxury, you think of Chanel. I even did an Instagram post about bag hierarchy and how there are 3 different classes for bags. There's status, there's statement, there's fashion. And when you think of status bags, you think of Chanel, you think of Hermes. So I personally, one that has been shopping for or buying luxury for the last 20 something years, and acquired my first Chanel bag, gosh, almost 20 years ago. It's very interesting to see the evolution of the brand. Gone were the days where that integrity was king, and with that, they were able to demand certain prices that even at the time were still up there, but people were willing to spend because there was the status attached, but there was also the quality, the gold hardware, the craftsmanship, the leather itself, the defined grains on the caviar leather, the lambskin, even, with the fact that lambskin is a bit more of a delicate material, or skin rather, it still had longevity. And now you can put a bag from back in the day against a bag that is fairly new, and there is a significant difference. I'm sure I've mentioned this before in one of the breaking down the bag videos with Chanel about how I was at dinner with a girlfriend a few fashion weeks ago, and I brought my Chanel bag. At the time, I'm sure it was well over 10 years old, and she had just gone to Paris just to get that bag. And she was so disappointed when she put my bag that was like 10 years old against her bag. And if you know me, you know I use my bags. Do I take care of them? Yes. Am I aware of when I carry them? Yes. But I use them. And she was just so shocked that why does her bag not look like my bag in terms of the grain, in terms of the hardware and all the things. So there's definitely been a decline. A lot of people will tell you that, well, this I know for a fact. After 2008, we saw a massive decline in just the quality. That's when I remember this vividly when, my friends that worked in Chanel would say that the quality just went down. And ever since then, the amount of people coming in to say that, oh, this is falling apart or that's an issue started to increase, right? And then some people will say when Lagerfeld died, everything went to hell. And then this price gouging just became astronomical. I don't know. Obviously, this is all just tea and this is all speculation. But there is the fact that the quality started to decline after 2008. That is a fact. But Chanel recently came out and said that their astronomical price increases are due to inflation. I call that BS with the quickness. I did do a post on that, yeah, right. When you see the kind of increase within the last couple of years, even prior to inflation, Chanel started with the shenanigans. So inflation, in my opinion, was just an excuse to keep on jacking up prices. Whereas the real reason is they saw an opportunity, they jumped on it. Supply and demand. Always goes back to supply and demand. I remember at one point, going to visit my friends at Chanel and them saying that, they can't keep anything in stock, period. Like and this was even before the pandemic. It was hard for them to keep stuff in stock. I remember looking at an egg basket and carrying the egg basket. And this was before the pandemic. This was a long time ago because I think I still even worked retail then. And I was just in awe of the fact that they were asking for, but I think it was either $7,000 or $9,000 for literally an egg basket. And someone bought it. So just know that, but unique pieces like that always went up a little higher because, they were a little bit more crafted, even though they were symbolizing things that were not necessarily functional. I understood the craftsmanship and I understood the fun, artsy part of it, and I understood those price points. But even back then, your Chanel Jumbo was still at least in the $5,000 range. So I had to ask my girlfriend. I think she bought hers in like 2017. So I'm assuming that's around that timeline, or maybe a little before, but when she bought her Jumbo in about 2017, 2015, it was still 5,000. It was still about 5,000 for the Jumbo. The same Jumbo now is about 12 something. So, and like I said, we've seen a consistent decline in quality, which is definitely very sad. It's very sad. And I don't think inflation is the issue, because if that's the case, Chanel was not the only brand experiencing inflation. So many other brands are. And I understand what they're trying to do in the sense that they are trying to cement the brand in the same frame as Hermes has been cemented, has that status, the ultimate status brand when it comes to luxury handbags. But my only issue is when you mass produce, you can't do that. And yes, I said it, Chanel is a mass production company. Period. You cannot have that many stores across the world and not call yourself a mass-produced company. I think people misconstrue this idea of, that fast fashion, that it has to be fast, fast, fast. It's still, it's maybe not as fast, but it's still pretty fast. The amount of pieces and the units in each store and the demand for it, or the only way to keep up is it has to be done fast, and that's why you have brands like Dior that are being called out. So don't be surprised if some expose comes out and we find out that, yeah, Chanel has its own little sweatshop somewhere. I wouldn't be surprised. I really wouldn't. And as much as I say that, I still love Chanel. Will I continue to buy Chanel? Absolutely. I'm just stating the facts. I am just stating the facts. I will not be that person that will lie or come on Beyonce's internet and say how blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to be sustainable. I'm trying to do this. And then boom, I'm just switching it out or buying, or I'll still go back and buy. I'm going to tell you guys the truth. I'm not going to stop buying Chanel. But now I'm looking at it a little differently. I think I've always kind of looked at it a little differently, if I'm being honest with you guys. And then once those prices started going astronomically high, for me, I just had to put my foot down that, okay, if I'm going to indulge in Chanel, I definitely will not be buying classics. I can't wrap my head around the idea of buying some of the bags that I bought at fairly reasonable prices for luxury, and now turning around and buying those same bags within the span of 5 years, double the price. It just doesn't make sense to me. So I won't be doing that. But in addition to this inflation argument and the fact that they've been getting so much heat about that, I don't know if you guys know, but they also had issues with their creative director, Miss Viard. I hope I said that right. I tease about it a little bit that she was fired, but I don't think she was fired. Obviously, we will probably never know exactly what happened. But the fact that Chanel experienced so much success, an increase, like a 16% profit increase. They've seen so many astronomical profit increases over the last couple of years due to this woman, but yet they're letting her walk away. And I don't know whether if it's the fact that they're getting so much heat on this inflation claim and the fact that so many people were calling them out for the BS that it was. Maybe that might be a factor. I don't know. You guys let me know. What do you think is the factor for letting her go? Is it that people just see it for what it is, the BS in this argument? I think people would have more respect for a lot of these brands if they just came clean. We are a money-making business, period. And I have no issues with that. I have no issues. Make your money if you want to make your money, but let's just be honest about this. I also know for a fact that a lot of these price hikes are not just the product that you're paying for, but you're paying for the lavish parties that are being thrown and the what's it called? The fashion shows and all those things. All of that is incorporated into the price. So I always used to get a little irritated when I did work luxury that, you could always pay your associates so much better if you just cut down just a little bit. And I understand there has to be an air created around luxury. It's aspirational. That's why we buy it. We want to buy into it because of the association of luxury and status and success. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that's where I am more so with my content, normalizing the fact that we like what we like. It's our money, so we can buy whatever the hell we like. But I think we need to eliminate the shame, and I think the brands need to be somewhat transparent. Will that ever happen? I don't think so, but we can have the conversation about it. Before I jump into the next topic, I want to know, with the little tea that I just shared and all of that, would you guys reconsider shopping Chanel? Is it a turnoff? Does this allow you to just think a little bit different? But I definitely am curious, are you still shopping Chanel right now? Being the classics, accessories, or just everything? Let me know. Now that we've gotten Chanel, Dior, and a little bit of Armani out of the way, this news that I got didn't surprise me, and I feel like I mentioned this too. I must have mentioned this. But when I was, it was on my birthday actually, when I was doing some shopping, a little window shopping, I met up with one of my girlfriends, and she was like, yeah, that Saint Laurent is having some price drops on some of their bags. And I was like, do tell, But I also told her, I'm not surprised. I said, I predicted this because Saint Laurent, as much as I love Saint Laurent, I know people might think I hate Saint Laurent because I feel like I'm dogging them on a regular basis, but I am a fan. I have been a fan of the brand for many, many, many years. Many years I've been buying Saint Laurent. However, Saint Laurent was also considered one of those introductory luxury accessory brands. But social media has the ability to change things. A lot of people downplay the part of influencers in the market, and it is not something to downplay. If you worked in this space over the last 20 years, you will know that the influence is not likely. And brands saw that. Even brands that were so reluctant to work with this influencers, to be associated with influencers, have done a 360, Chanel included. There were so many brands, luxury retailers, brands in general, that just were like, no, this is not for them. It's beneath them. But now when you go to every major show, who's sitting front row? Because now you have real people telling you that this is it. This is what you need to wear. This is what you need to do. I remember back in the day when I was trying to encourage one of my friends, start your blogs, because back in the day it was blogs. It wasn't just Instagram. We were blogging. But and I remember her saying, I don't feel like I can start doing this until I get a Chanel bag. So there's just this idea, and I actually do have a really cool post coming out on Instagram about the psychology of luxury pricing. So stay tuned for that. If you guys are not following me on Instagram, I would just say you're doing yourself a disservice, because we go over everything. And it's fun, it's short, it's simple. But I do love the fact that I get to kind of like just vomit my thoughts for I can let everything out and just ramble about the stuff that I love but also bothers me in this space, because this is a space that I love. If you know me, you know I love fashion, but at the same time, you can love fashion and call out the shortcomings at the same time. Two things can be true at the same time. So for those of you that are like, oh, why am I always downing luxury? For the most part, this is really just to inform you as a shopper and to let you be aware that, this is what you're buying into. Don't let anyone fool you with this notion of that it's just beyond and better than everything else. No, that's not necessarily the case. Sometimes it is, but for the most part, that's not necessarily the case. And that's okay, because like I said, it's your money. Spend it how you want to. Anywho, so was I surprised Saint Laurent was having some price drops? No. And in addition to Saint Laurent, we heard about Gucci as well. Will it stop there? Absolutely not. You know why? Because people have shopping fatigue. They're not buying anymore. We were shopping like our lives depended on it in 2020 and 2021 and 2022, myself included. And now even I, a self-proclaimed shopper, actually I'm not even self-proclaimed. I'm sure if a doctor diagnosed me, you would say, yeah, she's a shopaholic. This is when the Nigerian accent comes out, because it's true. And like I said, I am in my tell the truth, shame the devil era. I hit 45 and I'm just like, I'm going to say what's on my mind. But, there's shopping fatigue. There is shopping fatigue. And I also feel like brands are being lazy. There's just nothing that's intriguing. In 2020, it's almost as if everyone felt the need to get on their A game, because it was like, how are we going to get people to shop in a pandemic? And the answer was create pieces that were breathtaking, that were well made, that everybody wanted to have. And also, too, everyone had a little extra money to spend, because we weren't traveling, we weren't going out to eat, we weren't doing all the things. So rightfully so. So now I think a lot of people have gotten to a point where they want to wear the stuff they bought. That shit is hanging up in the closet, and things are being given away without being worn. And in addition to that, brands are jacking up the prices in a way where it does not make sense when shit is constantly falling apart. So in response to the fact that, yes, there is inflation and it is a real thing, but in response to the fact that some of these prices just don't make sense anymore, people are seeking alternatives. And I can say this because I do a lot of content surrounding this, and I read the comments and I see the comments, and I talk to people that work in retail now, and I go and I have looks every now and then, and I do ask questions whenever I go in, and it's dead. It's dead. It's dead. It's dead. Mind you, the only place that I found that was not dead was Hermes. But in 2021 and in 2022, when everybody was jacking up their prices on slides and bags and everything else, they came down a bit. That tells me that brand has integrity. They did not feel at the time that the prices on, like the Iran was a great example, did not necessarily match what they were asking for, so they dropped the price down. And then, of course, now they went back up when the popularity, I didn't even realize it went back up because I didn't buy any Orons last year in 2023. So when I went in, it had gone up, I think almost like $50 or $60, if not almost $100. So I was like, oh, okay. But at the same time, considering the way they create their leather, all the things, their customer service, I got a water stain on my Kelly, and I thought it was going to cost me an arm and a leg to get that fixed. They didn't charge me anything. Same thing with jewelry, so I feel like when brands have that level of service and integrity and they stick by it regardless of the trends, people will kind of go to you more. Mind you, Hermes is having its own issues. If you guys didn't hear about the people suing them about the fact that they make you buy a whole bunch of things before you buy something else. So they were being sued for that. Do I think they necessarily make you buy a whole bunch of things? Not necessarily. Did I buy a whole bunch of things? No, not necessarily before I got my bag. Did I buy things? Yes. Was I the ideal customer? Yes, because I like to have fun. I like to introduce my friends to whoever I work with. And, I think when you treat people well, you'll always get what you want eventually. It's not rocket science. Because they would tell me all the time that, so many people would come into the store and start demanding stuff and give them horrible attitudes and just be mean for no reason. And of course, if I had the opportunity to let you buy something, I'm not going to let you buy that. Why would I? You're a bitch. So, say la vie on that. But anywho, I don't want this to be too long, but I'm not surprised with those price increases. Let me know what you guys think. Do you feel that the price increases are necessary, are warranted, or do you agree with me? I would love to know. So, as we continue to watch, you can always pause and then leave your comment and then come back on because the conversation keeps on going. Anywho, more on the positive. Let's get to the positive because I feel like we've done a lot of like downplaying. Mind you, this is kind of a positive negative. Sorry. But I did want to highlight the fact that, you've got Pharrell, you've got Maximilian. You do have more and more Black creative directors. However, and I just have to, let me say my however first, because I do want to end on more of a positive note. But yes, the however is, why aren't we seeing any women of color, heading or having these positions? I would love to see that. I would love to see that. We've only seen men. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I can't think of any women of color heading any of the design teams or being any creative director for any of these, top 10 luxury houses. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. But kudos to the brands who are still creating, or creating space, and to the positive, shout out to Pharrell because I have to say I am obsessed with what he's doing. I think he's doing such a phenomenal job with Louis Vuitton men. We just saw the men's collection, and I thought it was wearable. It was sellable. He's doing what the brand wants him to do. He is creating garments that people can wear in real life and that will sell. And I think that's the misconception of whereby people expect creative directors to create avant-garde, mind-breaking, groundbreaking garments. Yes, we want to be a little shocked and we want to see things that are different, but we also want things that we can wear. Otherwise, who's going to buy it? And if nobody's buying it, then we have these issues where brands feel the need to jack up prices on the accessories and the shoes because that is what really keeps brands afloat. So yes, it kind of has to work itself out. And I think he's doing a very good job at creating pieces that people will spend their hard-earned money at. So kudos to him. Also with Ferragamo, I have to say I've always been a Ferragamo fan. I've had pieces from Ferragamo over the years, but I've never really been interested. I've always seen it as that old granny kind of brand, and maybe every now and then I'll buy an accessory because it's cute. But, it's just so much more interesting right now, and I'm here for it. I love it. I'm here for it 100%. Also, before I end, and close off, because I do want to still touch brands that seem to be getting it right and holding their integrity. I wanted to kind of speak a little bit about Valentino and the new collection, because I know there was a little bit of chatter about, oh, it looks more like Gucci. And I hadn't really looked into it or even kind of dived in. Just someone just sent me a picture, sent me a DM, and like, what do I think about Valentino? Like, what do I think about this look? And right as I saw it, I thought it was Gucci. If I'm being honest, I thought it was Gucci. So I was like, oh yeah, it looks like Gucci. And she's like, yeah, it looks so much like Gucci. It's the new creative director. I cannot remember his name for the life of me. I'll have the text overlay come up because I can't remember. It's just poofed out of my head. But, the argument was like, oh my God, it looks so much like Gucci. And I was like, well, sure, it sure does look like Gucci. But then I saw an article, well, not an article, but a post by Brian Boy. Shout out to Brian Boy, OG, literally an OG blogger, fashion, whatever, all the things. And he did a really cool comparison, just indicating that, yes, we're all saying this looks like Gucci, but he's paying homage to Valentino back in the day.
The point here is, let's read some of the comments about Alessandro Michele's debut at Valentino. He has a serious problem when it comes to renew his perspective. It's Valentino, with its own legacy and history. Is that so difficult to design pieces focused on Garavani's archive? Is that not an archive coat? So we all agree we're looking at Gucci, right? Actually, I'm looking at the new Valentino and old Valentino with a paisley detail. This is Alessandro Michele's aesthetic, not Valentino. Okay. It's just Gucci at Valentino. He should just do his own brand, no other house codes. This is just so unfortunate. I mean, I want to cry. Valentino is not a patchwork brand. He's ruining the essence of the brand. Just make your own brand, man. Lord have mercy. It's really fascinating reading at these comments because everyone clearly wants to be a fucking fashion critic. Thou shall not forget, Alessandro Michele has only been at Valentino for two and a half months, and he managed to come up with 171 looks, paying tribute to the early days of the Valentino Maison. I mean, he's talented.
The idea of the collection was to create pieces that, reflect on the house where it came from. And y'all, everything that he created was an elevated version of what Valentino used to do. So I think the last creative director took the brand in a different way. And we got so used to that we didn't even really consider that, well, maybe that's how it was before. Mind you, I think if I'm correct, this was more in the 70s. So Gucci now, or Gucci that we've come to know in the last couple of years, definitely reflected a lot of 70s fashion, but elevated. So, I kind of saw it, I got it, and I thought it was interesting. Do I necessarily love it? Not necessarily, because I did become accustomed to Valentino as we know it now. So, but let me know what you think about that. And knowing that it is a mirror reflection of what Valentino used to be. If you think that's the right direction for the brand, even though, of course, our opinions really don't matter. Like, they're going to do what they want to do. But I'm always curious to get other people's opinions about fashion and the state of fashion. So more to come when the podcast comes. So stay tuned for that, because I will be having more people where we can just talk shit about fashion. And I love that. And I love that because the conversations will be amazing. So stay tuned for that. Anywho, so let's talk. There's two brands that I just wanted to highlight before I end it, because like I said, I do want to end this on a more positive vibe, more positive note. I do have to still say that even though we're seeing a lot of brands, what feels like they're losing their integrity for a dollar, there are still brands that are sticking to their guns, that treat their employees phenomenally well, that have a culture that, in my opinion, has an artist, has someone who knows what it takes to create a garment. I think, it's just to be applauded. And that is Cucinelli. I remember the first time I sat in a product knowledge with Cucinelli, and the way they spoke about the brand, what they do, how they do it, the fact that they have this whole little town that's just dedicated to that. And you can see pride. There was pride in what they do, and that hasn't changed. You know, the materials, the fabrics. I bought a fabulous pair of Fendi pants, and I had to take it to a seamstress to get it altered. And that particular seam, they buy fabrics from certain brands. So I don't know if you guys know this, but you can buy Loro Piana fabrics and Cinelli fabrics. You know, and we were just going, because I told them what I do, whatever, and they were showing me the different fabrics and the fabrics they had from these brands. And if you're a fabric person, you know there is a difference. There is always a difference. Does it have to be astronomically high? Not necessarily, but these are brands that not only have integrity when they create garments, but they also take care of their staff. Hermes is another one, you know. Nobody paid me. But, you know, I was talking to my girlfriend who works for Hermes, and she's like, yeah, we're shutting down every store so the brand can take or treat them. I can't remember. We're not going to say exactly what they're doing, but just they take care of their employees. And I think that is something to be said when brands watch the market, still calculate how much it costs to make a garment. But with that said, they still keep in mind who their customer is. And of course, the average Cucinelli customer, the average Hermes customer has a lot of money to spend. But at the same time, you know, nobody wants to feel cheated. I think that's really what it is. Nobody wants to feel cheated. Nobody wants to turn around and hear that the bag they spent $5,000 on only cost $60 to make. I think ultimately and I think we'll end on this note, is ultimately I'm not trying to say or discourage anyone from buying luxury. Let's be honest, there is a positive connotation attached to a lot of luxury brands. It's a symbol of success. It is a symbol of, I worked hard, I'm able to afford this. Regardless of what we want to say, you know, that is really the connotation. And like I said, I'll break it down more in my psychology of luxury shopping posts. But ultimately, it's our money, so we buy what we want. But I think the reason why I'm feeling more and more compelled to do these kind of posts is to kind of leave the information with you guys so you can be the smart shopper, right? Make your own decisions how you please, you know. If you want something just because you want the great quality, trust and believe you can get that great quality from Banana Republic. So you don't have to spend every penny. But if you feel like this is the gift you want to give yourself for all the hard work you put in, for the hours you work, for anything you do or any success you achieve, then so be it. Do it. Do it as you please. I just feel like as I've entered my 45 and fabulous era, I'm doing things unapologetically. I'm buying what I love. I'm doing what I love, but I'm doing this knowing that, yeah, they might F around with the prices and they might, you know, whatever, but I still like it. I'm still going to get it. So I think that's kind of where I want this same like vibe that I'm going through, that I'm enjoying and loving. I want that for you guys. So that's my gift to you. That's my gift to you. See, I love you guys. Let me know if you want me to do more videos like this. I really feel like I want to save these for podcast conversations. I love to get other people's perspectives. And in fairness, I have chit-chatted a little bit with friends and other people who are luxury consumers, luxury connoisseurs, people who have worked in the industry for a long time. So yeah, I definitely want the conversation to keep on going. So hopefully, you know, you'll see more of this. But if you want more of my perspective on fashion and luxury and all the things, just follow me on Instagram. It's Odd by Monty. I do post some of the videos here on YouTube Shorts as well, but for the most part, you will see everything on Instagram. And I have started a new little fun series on, sorry, I have a little bit of a cold, so talking is not the easiest, but we push through. But you will see I have this fun new series on TikTok, my thoughts. So sharing my thoughts on certain things. This will definitely, you know, there will be a short version of my thoughts on Dior and all the things is there as well. So thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you guys. If you're new here, you enjoyed the video, you love my vibe, just go ahead and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. That way you never miss a video. What else was going to say? Oh, guys, check out my website. OddByMonica.com turns 12 this year. Gosh, she's old. She's very old. So check out my website. For all of you guys that come here and say, oh, you just started doing it. No, I've been doing this for a very, very, very long time. So don't leave those comments anymore. They're redundant. Just saying. Anywho, check out the website. Follow me on Instagram. It's On by Monty. Follow me on TikTok. It's On by Monty. Across the board. Follow me on Pinterest. Start pinning all. Oh gosh, I have so much on Pinterest. Follow me on Pinterest. All the things. I'm gonna go because clearly I'm still feeling a little chatty and I have to get ready for dinner. So I'm gonna leave you guys and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, all stars.